In this episode, we're diving into the role of ASPiH Regional Tech Champions and what it means for the simulation community. I'm joined by Tom and Matt, two experienced simulation technicians who have taken on the challenge of representing their region within ASPiH. We'll be discussing what the role involves, why it's important for simulation technicians, and how they're working to support and connect others in their field. Whether you're a seasoned simtech or just starting out, this episode will give you insight into how ASPiH is shaping the future of simulation and what opportunities are out there for you. So, let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode at the SimTech Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about ASPiH Regional Tech Champions, and to do that I have brought along a couple of guests. Tom, I'm going to come to you for a little bit of a corporate introduction. Who are you? Where are you from?
Good morning. My name's Tom Hayes. I'm a simulation technician at Newcastle Hospitals Trust in the Northeast. I've been with the Trust and in the world of sim since 2020 when COVID happened. In my previous life, I was a sound technician, freelance sound technician. But obviously, COVID kind of put an end to that, and I fell into this weird world of simulation and fell in love with it, and I've been here ever since.
Wow, we need to come back and touch about the sounds. Sounds being the bane of my life.
I've heard you mention that a couple of times. I heard I got a shout out from Dan Blood as well, so I was now I've got to come on the show.
Of all the useful skills that I could think about, I'd just love to have like some kind of history of audio. And anyway, Matt, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning. My name's Matthew Clark. I'm the sim tech at East Cheshire NHS Trust at Macclesfield District General Hospital. Been in my role about 2 years, and I'm currently on the apprenticeship scheme through Hampshire Hospitals, Hampshire University Hospitals. My previous life, I was a Royal Engineer in the military.
Wow.
So I used my problem-solving skills kind of landed me in this job. I randomly walked past it one day in a hospital and went, "What is that? I wanted it. Give me." And that's how we got it.
Yeah, I was in the military for a long time as well, and I didn't know this world kind of existed. So I was a medic in the army, and I didn't. Although I'd been doing simulation for 20 years, I never even knew simulation was a word. We
No, exactly the same. Yeah,
moulages. We just did high fidelity simulation really, really badly. But all right. So we're here to talk about ASPiH Regional Champions. Is that the correct title before we kick off? Is that what people are calling it?
Yeah, I think Regional Tech Champions is how it's been referred to, certainly while I've been doing this, which I think is coming up to 3 years now.
Yeah. Okay. So, what would you say if you were going to give it a kind of a definition? Maybe just a paragraph without diving in. What is it? What is it on the count?
So, I guess the first thing is we're saying ASPiH. What is ASPiH? ASPiH is the Association for Simulated Practice in Healthcare. So it's like the UK's simulation society, I suppose. There are others. There's CSAM for Europe. Is it SSC in the States? So there's these big organizations that kind of, hope to provide steer for what simulation is in their respective countries. So there's guidelines in how you should be practicing sim and this kind of thing. So the Tech Champions, this was an idea that came out in 2015, and the idea was to, with simulation technicians still being quite a new thing, it was to kind of act as an ambassador for the skills that simulation technicians have or could have, and kind of signpost people who, as we all did, fell into roles and kind of went, "Oh, what's this weird world?" and then kind of introduce them to, other people who are doing similar things, and maybe introduce them to other people in their region, and generally, be, I guess, an ambassador for simulation best practice and the ASPiH community.
I mean, it's nice that they're finally paying attention to techs, that we've got our foot in the door. and that people, it gives us a little bit of a platform to be heard. Matt, would you add anything onto the description that Tom said?
Yeah, it's not technology champion. I've got it on the bottom of my email, and so I get so many emails about, "Hi, this is broken. Do you know how to fix it?" Blah 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 blah. Yes, I do, but that's not what my role is, right? Like he's saying, it is an ambassador for techs. So we are here to make a song and dance about all the good things that our techs within our regions do in a national group that we sit in once a month.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I almost don't like the title of simulation technician. I prefer simulation technologist. It shows you that I use technology, but most of the time we can't really fix it, which tells me, is that the role of the technician to fix stuff? I know we do. I know we get our hands dirty and stuff, but is that right? Is that what we do? Do we go in and fix things?
I mean, I think that touches on like something that I know you've noticed, Matt and Craig, as well. Anytime we go to ASPiH or we go to one of these sim technician events, the breadth of skills and the knowledge base is so like all over the place.
It's diverse.
It's very diverse. It's you've got lots of very unique backgrounds. I was chatting to someone whose previous role was making explosives, and I was like, well, how does that lead you into simulation technology? There's a few events technicians, there's some IT people. We were saying yesterday, Matt, there's quite a few former service people, military, Air Force, Navy, who have found themselves in this.
Yeah, because soldiers, they have a phrase and they say "jack of all trades, master of none." And that's why soldiers fit in, because our job description is so vast, that we do a little bit of everything. And that's why I feel like it's a really good stepping stone for ex-veterans, soldiers coming into this world. And Matt, how did you find it being a non-clinician coming into the world then?
Hard. I'm not gonna lie, very hard. I was kind of pushed into this role by my management. My management approached me and said, "Look, you are a non-clinician. You're coming into a role that you have to have some understanding of the clinical world and doctors and medicine and anatomy." And I was like, "Oh my God, do I need to go back to school and start learning all over again? Do I need to go and get a university degree?" And I didn't. What I did was I became a tech champion, volunteered for it, interviewed for it, got accepted. And then all of a sudden I had this smaller network of tech champions that I could rely on to ask questions like, what is this? What does this do? I was saying to Tom yesterday, I always became this little kid, and I went and begged and borrowed and harassed as many doctors and clinicians as I could. What's that? What's it do? How's this work? Oh, what's that? They hated me for the first 5 months of my job role. It really did. I was following them around everywhere. I spent 2 weeks in theatres just to get some understanding of what it was that they were wanting from us as Simtex within that particular role. I actually went and got my healthcare assistant training and did the care certificate so that I could go onto wards and do bank shifts to have some understanding of what it is to deal with a patient face to face, to see what it is that the people that we're putting in these rooms have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
I mean, that's some dedication right there.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
Tom, have you ever done anything as drastic?
Well, so I was going to touch on the shadowing, the kind of going into theatres, because that's something that we've done quite a lot, and we're trying to do more of in Newcastle. But actually spend some time, usually just a day, shadowing the clinicians who we are doing the simulation for, to get a bit of insight into what it is that we're supposed to be recreating. I don't think I would be allowed to do 2 weeks. I'd love to, but it's so valuable. Like, even if you're just going on a ward round in assessment suite or ED, and like kind of seeing, oh, these are the kinds of cases that we're dealing with. These are the people. These are the sort of questions that we're designing scenarios around.
Yeah, I mean, it's
This is what we're trying to recreate.
even as things as simple as moulage. How can you replicate a wound or anything if you've never seen anything of the sorts? I mean, a lot of us learn, unfortunately, from things like television, where they might be over the top or a little bit unreal. I had Rebecca from Bloody Realistic on the other week, and she is a moulage expert. And I asked her, have you ever been onto a ward? And she's not. She's like, no, I've never even seen a wound in real life. But what she does is she goes and gets like a library of real wounds, and she's got this like dictionary book that she looks into to copy all these things. But as a technician, it's a great thought actually being able to go onto the wards, because most people won't have seen patients. Most people won't even have seen a real, I'll call them a real scenario, a real person being treated by a nurse. So how can we replicate that kind of world from? Do we just use our imagination?
I think we're quite lucky that we're both NHS.
Yeah.
If we were HEI, it would be a lot harder for us because we can't walk onto a ward, we can't go and harass clinicians. It would be much harder for us because we have to rely on the clinicians that are in the HCI.
And I think there is also the argument that, in other organizations, that's the role of the clinical faculty, is they have the experience, they bring the, the knowledge that they tell us, and then that allows us to develop the good simulations. But I think maybe, as you'll know yourself, Craig, sometimes with the NHS thing, we don't quite have the preparation time that's needed to do the best. So having that kind of embedded knowledge is really valuable.
Yeah. All right. So Matt, you were saying, you were thrown into this world as a tech champion. How did you hear about this opportunity come through?
I think my sim lead Scott from the Escape Room podcast, we were just sat there one day and he got an email through from ASPiH and he was talking about ASPiH. Do I want to be membership? Do I want to go to the conferences and stuff? And he applied it all through and then he just sat there and he goes, oh, there's a thing called a Regional Tech Champion. And he literally gave me the website, the Tech Champion thing from ASPiH. And he said, is it something you'd be interested in? I think you'd be very good at it. Go for it. And I was like, okay then. And then his boss signed off on it. I had my little interview with Chris Gay, bribed him with a toffee crisp, and here we are today. So yeah, I was pathwayed into it. I didn't know about it prior to becoming it, as it were. Especially because within the Northwest, there was one other tech champion, but no existing network.
Yeah. I mean, what's the network like down south, and Matt?
Sorry?
What's the network like?
In the Northwest? Yeah, non-existent.
Is the one? I mean,
No.
I'd like to think, Tom, that ours is quite strong up here.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one of the first differences between my experience and Matt's is like, John Stratford, who you've already had on the show, and my predecessor, Stephen Cooper, they were tech champions very, very earlier on, I think like 10 years ago. And the Northeast Sim network was very, very well established. So I was actually approached by the then Sim lead, because John had moved on to Pastures New, as had Stephen, and there was this opening. So
is that because of tech champions then, Tom? Are you saying is that has it happened organically in the Northeast, where actually, maybe we're just a little bit tighter knitted, we're closer together, we just talk more, or is it one of the fundamental roles of these tech champions to, get people together and get them talking?
Yeah, so like when I came into the role, there wasn't a network. There was previously NWSEN, but with like when HEE closed and became NHSE, the funding for it disappeared. So as far as we know, the network disappeared. It might still be out there in small silos, having small networks in small regions, but for the whole region, there isn't. And me and Kean are trying hard now, doing our day job, doing our apprenticeships, and then trying to reach out to these small siloed networks to try and get them all to talk to each other.
And how do you bring people together like that then, Matt? What's kind of the plan?
Events. At the moment, there are no major events within the Northwest. There's not stuff like Oxford Brooks, tech events for tech people. You've got your ASPiH conference, you've got your Sim and Skills, stuff like that. But within the Northwest, there is no event. as far as we're aware, there's no major event that brings all these people together. We're very lucky that the work that the TEL team and Chris Gay and people like that have done for the Becoming Simulation faculty, we are bringing that to the Northwest, the one-day workshops. And we're going to use that as a springboard for networking to find out who's got a network, who hasn't, and bring them all together via the faculty course.
Yeah, on the events notes, I mean, that has been one of the things where there have been opportunities in the Northeast for people to get together. So there's been a SimTech event. There was a big Northeast Regional SimTech Sim conference with that you were presenting at, Craig.
Yeah, so that was so we've missed it this year, haven't we? So normally in the spring, so it's spring pods, like a spring symposium, nest fig kind of event.
Yeah, I mean, I won't get into all the bits and pieces of that, but Nestfig was another one I was going to touch on. So that's the Northeast Simulation Teaching Fellow interest group. But the chap who'd been leading on that, Chris, is he'd been very active in the community, getting people, particularly from the medical side of things, but he'd been bringing in more of, nursing. There's a big psychiatry simulation in the Northeast. I think because there's a mental health trust here that does a lot of teaching. So they've been bringing all those different groups together, and those events have been great for networking. I mean, coming back to one of the things that you were saying before was that coming into this role, it's given me a much better idea of like all the different things that are going on across the region, and sort of, things like psychiatry simulation that I didn't even know was a thing, where they're recreating hearings. So they've got their trainees coming in and actually presenting cases to a retired judge who's playing the legal advisor, and they have to build a case and present it, and that's something that it's simulation. It's very high fidelity because it's real legal expertise, but it's so far from what we do in the hospitals that it's just a different thing.
Yeah,
But having those network of
I'm just thinking, why is it such a well kept secret then? Why doesn't the message get out to all the other centres and generally to the world? Because, like I say, I'm in the Northeast and I haven't probably heard about this psychological simulation with the judge and stuff. How do we get that message out to people?
I think more events. I mean, one of the things that I briefly touched on. I mean, Matt's saying, we've got full-time jobs, we've got, additional education that we're doing, and then there's this on top. And as you experience yourself when putting together VR workshops and things, it takes a lot of time to bring these big events together. And even then, getting people released and getting people to attend them, and if they don't even know that we exist, I mean, it's entirely possible that with T-level courses and further education colleges starting sim type programs, I mean, there are going to be technicians sitting in the colleges that are completely isolated.
I mean, it's always going to be a barrier, isn't it? Is this time issue? I mean, how many hours a week do you get to dedicate to being a champion? Is there a standard answer first? What's the job description say?
It says it's voluntary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it says. It says it's voluntary. It says it's unpaid.
So if there's no answer to it, how do you get that past your line managers saying, I might need to be able to work X amount of hours per week? I mean, how do you get them to sign off on something like so vague?
I guess I'm lucky in that point because my manager pushed me into it.
So it's his fault.
Pathwayed me into it. So anytime I want time to do this, hold on a minute, I'm just going to have a 3-hour call with Kian. You can't really argue with me.
I mean, okay, so if there's no answer, what are you averaging at the moment?
Myself, about 3 to 6 hours a week.
All right. So
dedicated time, but some of that is in my own time, not work time.
I see. So there's a little bit of flexibility there of, do you ever get it back as toil, or is it just, no, that's it gone?
I mean, I guess it's different for me than it is for you, Tom, because whereas we're trying to rebuild a network or discover a network, it's a lot different, whereas I'm cold calling hospitals and talking to receptionists that have never heard of SIM for 6 hours. You're doing a lot different than I am, aren't you?
Well, I mean, that was one of the things that I was going to say. It sort of comes in peaks and troughs. So if there is a big event on or there's an ASPiH thing, then I tend to be spending a lot more time preparing things and getting in touch with people. And similarly to you, Matt, I mean, my line manager was one of the people who encouraged me to do this. So they can't then turn around and be like, well, no, you can't do it, So it's but it does vary. So I'm having a bit of a quiet moment at the moment, but yeah, I'm hoping to pick up again.
Does it ever cause any kind of conflict then when maybe ASPiH require this time and you're like, well, actually, I can't make it because I've got this going on? Is there any conflict between those kind of, or are they both so flexible that like you get to make your own kind of decisions?
No, I mean, I think there are conflicts occasionally. I'm very fortunate in Newcastle to have some brilliant colleagues who are able to cover things if something comes up. My local team can see the benefit of having some representation and some involvement in regional things.
That's exactly what I found key is when you're working in a secondment. It kind of is a secondment in it as a little bit of a role. If you can bring not so much rewards, but benefits to your organization so they can see that it's making a difference to you developing as a tech, but also benefiting the organization that you work at. For me, when I was working, what was HE at the time was an ILTO working with VR. I was bringing in, demo models and things so they can get their hands on. So showing that it's actually making a difference to both parties and making it super beneficial is really key to getting definitely line managers to sign off on these kind of deals. Matt, what's your experience with it?
I think mine's quite easy. Obviously, not having a network established and trying to do the legwork to get back to it is good. But having another tech champion within your region is so much better than I can't imagine doing a region on my own. Like I would struggle. I would struggle with work, education, and then trying to do it. Having another tech champion within our region to bounce ideas off to do half the work, split the region up. I mean, there's 36 trusts in our region. And obviously we've got Manchester, Liverpool within our region as well. So you can imagine how many university hospitals there are as well. Yeah, like Tom will tell you, Newcastle, like, oh my God. So each of the regions is 12 regions? There are 29 tech champions. So we're not all doing this work ourselves, as it were.
I mean, one of the things I was going to say about the regions, I mean, we can grumble a little bit and say, well, it's a really big area geographically to cover. And then you look at like Kenny and Katie and their region is Scotland, like all of it. So, we kind of go, okay, well.
The north of England, yeah. All right.
Yeah,
so
I mean, sorry.
If you're saying right, there's no amount of hours that is registered. I mean, how do they sort out your pay for such a undisclosed amount of hours? How do they pay you for it?
Toffee crisps.
All right,
it's a voluntary role.
All right, so this role itself's voluntary, and that's why it doesn't matter how many hours you really work, because it's your decision at the end of the day. Is that what we're saying? You can dedicate as many hours as you want.
It's one of those roles that pays for itself. So whatever you put in, you're getting out. I don't know, mentally. If you want to put in 12 hours a week and you do some hard graft on it, then you do 12 hours a week and you feel good because you've made some progress. If you've only got 3 hours that week to do, you've only got 3 hours, but you've still done progress. You're 3 hours ahead of what you were last week.
So the best way to think about this is it just fits in between your day job. So if, for instance, if you don't have a sim on this day, rather than, maybe you can dedicate half a day that day to sorting out your next sim, but then the other half of the day is, your spare time to work on projects and those kind of things.
I guess you could put it that way, yes.
Yeah. All right. So you touched on it. What do you actually get from this then, rather than a warm, fuzzy feeling? Is there anything that you think that you can gain from such a role?
For myself, I guess it was the coming into the role as a new tech. For me, it was the experience, just the experience of being around these highly educated and experienced techs, having this meeting with them once a month where you could bounce ideas of what to do with your network. How do I go about this? Who do I approach? I talked to Tom and I said, who are the key stakeholders within my region that I need to contact? Who do I need to have on board? Without that knowledge and that experience, I would never be able to do the role. So for me, the role was about, and still is about, gaining experience in networking from people that have already done it.
All right, so you say you get together on a Teams meeting once a month with all the regional tech champions. Is that the case?
An undisclosed secret location, yes.
Who is the chief tech champion? Is
The
the one?
chief tech, he's not going to be being called the chief tech champion, but obviously we can't talk about this work without mentioning Chris Gay and the massive amount of work that he's put into this. I mean, I mentioned before that I think this started in 2015, and I know Stephen and John up in the Northeast were some of the original guys, and I think Chris has been around since then, and it's grown to 29 people or possibly 30. I can't, but it's it's in a large part to the huge amount of work that Chris has put in wrangling all these various cats together.
Yeah, I mean, big shout out to Chris. I mean, the work that is he does that mostly goes unrewarded, but I think everybody that's a tech owes him a massive debt, because, like you say, I wholly believe that we wouldn't be where we are today, and people wouldn't know, anything about techs, if it wasn't him pushing this forward, really. Um, yeah, I've been trying to get him onto the show, but it is bound by NHSE communication barriers. But if you're listening, your time is close to getting him on. All right. So you spoke a lot about the role. What's the best part and maybe the most challenging part of being a tech champion?
I mean, one of the things that I've really enjoyed. I mean, you mentioned what do we get out of it, and I think the things that it's both challenging and good. I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone a little bit, having to do more networking, a lot of working not just within the technician community, but also all these different groups in the Northeast that kind of sit on the SIM Northeast committees and interest groups. So that's been interesting.
I mean, networking is really powerful for us, isn't it? I mean, looking into the future, if you ever go for, I mean, one of the best things that I can see about it is if you go for an interview, people are probably going to have already seen you. They're going to know, because you're probably going to be in a meeting at some point with these people that are going to be interviewing for the role for whatever you go for next. So just having a bit of face time with the powers to be is a great advantage in it.
And I mean, even from the other side of that, that visibility. So there was I was at one of these meetings in my tech champion capacity, and I wouldn't have been there otherwise. And the regional lead for radiology was there and wanted to start talking about doing some radiology sim that they hadn't been able to do before. And I worked with his teaching fellow to develop a pilot for some emergencies in biopsies and this kind of stuff, which was a whole project that wouldn't have come about if I hadn't been visible at that meeting, because they would have never known, oh yeah, this is a thing that we can do, and here's a person to speak to about it. So it can be very rewarding that way. The big challenge, I think we've touched on already, it's this is an unpaid role. You get a limited amount of time, and your geographical area that you're covering is quite big. It's a kind of pushed down in the T's end of the Northeast to take on the role, because I wasn't able to get that. I mean, it's 4 hours round trip to get down there. It's not something you can do in an afternoon
I mean,
to come
I
and
might have
visit
forgot
people.
to ask this, Tom. I mean, how long is the role? What's your how long once you get appointed? How long do you have?
Well, I haven't been told any specific time yet. I imagine I'll get a tap on my shoulder and be like,
So,
let somebody else have a go now.
how long have you been doing it already? So you said you've been doing it a year or two.
I think I think it'll be 3 years this September.
All right, so it's a minimum of 3 years. Is that just because
Well,
the
I mean, I honestly don't know. I mean, that would be another question you can ask Chris when he gets on. But I mean, I think there's some of the guys down south have been tech champions for as long as they've been techs. I mean, there's some really some veteran sim technicians.
All right, so maybe it's not a time thing. Maybe it's just when you guys have had enough and you've time pressure where you just want to swap.
Or similarly, like, I mean, there's even just within the Newcastle, like within 10 miles of Newcastle city centre, there are now 3 new techs that weren't around when I started, who I think would do fantastic work. And if they wanted a shot of it, it would be great to get them on board as well. So yeah, I think if there is somebody who is interested in taking on this ASPiH Regional Tech Champion hat, I mean, no one's going to stop them, like, putting an expression of interest in and seeing what they can bring to the table.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it would be great.
I didn't even know that there was more than one per region. So there's opportunity. I assume you're the only one for the Northeast, Tom.
Well, no. So I've recently. So Dan Wade Myers from Teesside, he was at the South Tees NHS Trust, and now he's moved across to the university, Teesside University. But he's sort of, as of ASPiH just gone, he's taken on the sort of south bit of the northeast to kind of work in there. And I mean, similarly, he's involved with lots of projects at the moment. So I think it's finding time again. But yeah.
Matt, what's your most challenging? I think you've probably said what you enjoy the most.
Receptionists. Yeah, my most challenging point is obviously trying to contact these trusts, discover what sim is there, because sometimes you'll have a trust within your region that you don't even know sim exists in that place. It could be some sole siloed thing out in a community hospital and they're doing some form of sim, but the main hospital don't understand it as sim.
How do you record all this information? Do you have like a map with centres?
Database? We pulled it off NHS England map of the regions, so their northeast, our northwest. Within the tech sig itself, we've got like a map with all the regions on it, and our faces glued to it. Like, these are the tech champions.
All right. So you spoke about your experience. I mean, what kind of work's going on there then? What kind of projects have you both been involved in?
So currently within the Northwest, and specifically here at East Cheshire, we're pushing for ASPiH accreditation, and as part of our ongoing 5-year strategy for what we want to do sim-wise in East Cheshire, we want to bring this NHS England Becoming Sim faculty course and put on the workshop as a workshop venue here within Macclesfield. 1, for its networking, which helps me. 2, because it's a big green tick, thumbs up, you're doing well, you're training other faculty, and it then allows us the longevity of the faculty that we can bring in to help facilitate more sim within the Northwest, and then start to do these events and stuff like this.
Can we just touch base on the Becoming Simulation faculty? I assume you've done the little course that Chris does for the regions and stuff. What do you think of it?
Don't call it a little course. It's a huge piece of work. And I mean, just talking about examples of things that sim tech champions have done. I mean, there was a group of technicians who've put in a massive piece of work providing the technicians insight for non-technicians doing that Becoming Simulation faculty course. And that's a nationally recognized course. It's being rolled out across UK, Northern Ireland. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, so
Um,
I sat on it and I went along, and I was a little bit pulled into different directions with what the course was offering, because bear in mind that I come from a centre that's got a well-established faculty development course, and what Chris is trying to do is trying to do one for the masses. And although we was getting me and the sim lead went down, and we thought it was a great idea, but for simulation centres that already have something well established, with simulation centre, the rooms, the debrief rooms, the control rooms and stuff, none of that's kind of involved, is it? It's just kind of sitting in a little classroom and very heavily on theory rather than getting your hands on. Um, what do you guys think about learning simulation with only theory? Do you believe in that? Who's going to answer? Go on then, Tom.
so I think, given it's like your BLS course. You can't have a super high fidelity BLS course because you need to be able to deliver it in a church hall. And I think they've set out with this program with the main thing of it being universal. It needs to be delivered anywhere, whether you're in a district general, a community hospital, you're in a major trauma center, you should still be able to access the same material. And then I think you say you've got your faculty development course. It's long established. It runs really well. Similarly, at Newcastle, we've got our train the trainer that's been running for a while and is always updating. But I think, this becoming simulation faculty can be seen as complementary to that, because, one of the problems that we've had, and I think one of the problems that Chris is trying to address, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but there is the widely different expectations of simulation when faculty are coming in, and even people's style of debrief, what they expect of their candidates, what they expect of the faculty is all over the place. And you go to a centre down in Devon and a centre up in Edinburgh, and it's completely different, in down to how they set out their objectives, the number of learning objectives in a scenario, the length of the scenarios, what they're expecting of their candidates for the same sort of program. The things could be all over the place. So I think it's a really worthwhile objective in trying to bring a bit of standards and coherence to sim-based education. And I think where our individual centers roles is, and maybe our regional roles is, if you have a really strong in-house practical session, is that we lean more into the practical side of it and say, okay, well, you've done your e-learning, you've done your tabletop workshops. Now, if you're going to be delivering in our centers, this is how all the tech works. And then maybe that means that the technicians, I don't know how much of your course you actually deliver, Craig, but I mean, maybe that's something where, because one of the things that I've found in my role is I've taken on more of the teaching as time has gone on, to the extent that I actually deliver the whole becoming the trainer at Newcastle now, because
Yeah. Well, but our course is, so for us, we love the idea, and we back Chris on such a huge initiative. But for us, it felt a little bit as a step back as a centre, because we've got tools here to show them high fidelity mannequins. We've got VR stuff where we can do VR workshops. We've got moulage equipment. We can do moulage, and we know we can sit around the tables and we can get hands on and we can do all this. For us to take a step back and move it to a classroom on a table with some notebooks, it just felt like a little bit of a step back in the wrong direction for us. Although we loved the idea, and but because it was aimed at maybe the lowest denominator to get everybody through, we felt it was just a little bit of a step backwards for us. Although what we want to do is we want to test it as a theory anyway, so we're going to probably get involved and maybe use it as a stage one faculty development before they maybe come on to stage two. Matt's, what your experiences with it?
See, we're completely different from the two of you. So the two of you already have established faculty training and development around sim. Whereas I come from a trust where we don't. We have a small sim team. We've got 2-3 sites where we deliver sim. We don't have a faculty training for. It would be literally bring the person in, show them a kit, and then throw them into a sim. let's go. You're delivering on Friday and you want the sim, right? Let's go. So it was on the spot. Not you couldn't keep doing it for a long time. There was no standard to it. There was no prep for it. It was like, okay, we've done this before. We'll do it again. But to have this faculty training course that we can just signpost someone to. Someone comes to us and says, right, we'd really like to get into sim and faculty. What do we do about it? And we can go, okay, national standard. Let's push you to the faculty training course so that when you come to us, you actually have some understanding of what it is, how it's delivered, how to debrief. So you're not walking in and we have to teach you everything within the week before your sim's coming in. So for us, it's brilliant because we are getting people in that are, like you said, lowest denominator, don't know much about sim. So as a training course for someone that doesn't have an existing faculty training, train the trainer course in place is great.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see, when the figures come out on the evaluations and get some real numbers through to see how well it's received. Tom, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think it highlights one of the, we have these wonderful faculty development programs, but again, it's kind of like I think people have said on the podcast before. You get quite used to like, oh well, we do it this way and our way is the best way, but then you're not aware of necessarily what's going on in the wider region, and something like this is a great opportunity to get, because the ones I didn't actually make it to the in-person session, but I was at a lot of meetings where it was being discussed, and getting everybody to kind of show, okay, well, this is what we're currently doing in the region was really interesting, because I wasn't aware of what you were doing down in Durham and Darlington, and up in Dash they have their own thing and they do something different, and it was great to kind of see what people were bringing to the table and what things were the same, what things were different, what the emphasis was. Like, do people spend a big chunk of time on debriefing because actually that's where the interest is from the clinicians? They're less worried about the tech side of it because, oh, there's a technician looking after it.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
I love the thought, because it's a really strong networking tool. I mean, just imagine actually someone from a different centre ringing you up, going, "Look, faculty's sick. Any chance you could come over and help us out here?" Because they've all done the same course. Everybody knows exactly what's expected of you, and having that consistency and being able to help each other out within the region is brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, there was someone I was speaking to in the Northwest actually who's been trying to do exactly that with, you've got groups of nurses that work together and groups of doctors that work together and like lots of different disciplines. And she basically set up a faculty arrangement where they'd all done the same training and they would guarantee faculty for each other's courses, so they could actually make sure that the standards were maintained. And also things like avoiding stereotyping, because you want to get away from the nurses playing the doctors, and doctors are always unhelpful, and the doctors playing nurses, and how it goes. So it can be a really useful tool for doing that, and I think that's a particularly worthwhile objective of this. Particularly, I don't know what it's like in your trust, but sometimes even in my own trust, it's really difficult to get faculty together from different departments.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, we're just about out of time, as we put a 45-minute limit on this one. So we're just going to end up with one last question for both of you. Tom, is it worth it?
Absolutely. I've really, I think, got a lot from, as I said, putting myself in those slightly uncomfortable situations, but from the networking, from presenting things, from, being able to go to events and I think Matt's phrase yesterday was like being a minor celebrity in the tech community. People come up to you and just go, "Oh, hi, I read that thing you did online," or
Yeah.
you
There's
you
something
get
about
that.
just being called a champion. It's an ego thing, isn't it? That's all it is.
Yeah. But I mean, it's also, your face is on the thing. So if you go to a big conference, I don't know how many thousand were at ASPiH this last year, but having somebody that they go, oh well, I've come from a small community hospital. I don't have a network. I don't have, and then they see your face on a poster and they go, "Oh yes, I saw you," and they know somebody that they can start a conversation with, and it's a little bit of an icebreaker.
Yeah. Matt, is it worth it?
Yes, 110%. Like Tom just said, sometimes it is almost like being like a little minor celebrity within the sim world. It's being a tech champion. The opportunities that it gives you are just amazing for networking, for reaching out to your other sim sites and seeing where other people do what they do and why they do it that way, and being able to bring that back to your trust and think, well, hold on a minute. If they're doing it so well over there and it works in this way, can we use that in any way, shape, or form? And having the experience of all of these tech champions around you, being able to draw on that experience, it might cost you a toffee crisp every now and again, but it's really worth it. I don't even like toffee crisp. I don't know why I keep saying it. Definitely worth it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining me today. It's been great catching up with you, and I've definitely learned a little bit about the tech champs. And maybe it's a role for my future is to jump in on and come and get
Absolutely.
roll up my sleeves.
Whip the Northeast into shape.
Yeah, see what's going on, and hopefully by then, Matt, you're well established as taking over Chris's role as the chief tech champion.
And we need to get some Northeast Northwest events going on as well.
We definitely do, yeah.
Yeah,
Russ has got it locked up down south. There's lots of technician events going on in the south bit of the country. So something
yeah,
in the north.
and every time I see it, I'm a little bit jealous.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can only imagine the hard work that goes into something like that, though. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining me today, and I'll catch you sometimes later. Bye.
Thanks, Craig.
And that brings us to the end of the episode of the SimTech podcast. A huge thank you to Tom and Matt for sharing their experience as ASPiH Regional Tech Champions and giving us a deeper look into the role and its impact on the simulation community. If you're interested in getting involved within ASPiH or want to connect with other simulation technicians, be sure to check out their resources and networks. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your other fellow SimTechs. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the SimTech podcast.